What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Tonight in Haddonfield. I'm Sean, and joined by Mr. Dean Renner, as always. What's going on, man? How are you?
I am beat. I am exhausted. I had quite the long weekend. 3 very busy days at work, but finally was able to get home and rest today. So I'm still getting there. I'm still kind of tired, but yeah, here we are, ready to rank some masks.
Rest is good. Rest is definitely good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I struggled with my list a little bit. I had to sit there and think because honestly, we didn't like clarify rules or anything. So
Yeah.
I didn't include like Michael's bandage wrap mask or
Mm-hmm.
the flashback mask from Halloween Kills,
Mm-hmm.
simply because I was doing it from the perspective of I wanted to pick one mask per movie, minus Halloween 3, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and then 2 obviously get left off the board. Um, the 2 I picked to leave off the board was not a hard decision,
Mm-hmm.
but like that 4 through like 8 area,
Yeah.
I just could not figure out for the life of me.
Yeah. Yeah. It can get tough. It was funny. I was sitting here and I'm like, wait, I have to do mine. And I was going to do it yesterday, and I just kind of started thinking like, all right, what do I have? And I was able to get through the first top 5 pretty easy. And then when I hit the back end of the list, I'm like, okay, where should I even begin? And I ended up starting at the bottom at 10 and working right back up to 6. And I think in like 10, 15 minutes, maybe time, I had it knocked out. So it worked out. But I might be bending one of the rules. Just a heads up.
That happens.
Yeah.
When you get lists, there's all sorts of various different things that are going to come up. I'm sure some people look at my list and go, "I'm nuts." So H2O was another one, right?
Mhm.
I call it the alien-looking mask. There's a
Yeah.
technical name for it. It was just on the steel book for H2O,
All right.
actually. And then there's the who did the other one with the big eye holes?
I believe it was Sam Winston. I think it's the
That's it.
Winston.
Yeah, it is. So I ended up, even though I prefer the alien one, if you will,
Mhm.
most people prefer the Winston one.
Yeah.
So I ranked the Winston one on my list and not the
Yeah.
alien one. So I think we're going to run into some of that during our list tonight, but I'm excited to see what the chat has for their list. Freddie getting ahead of the curve here, sharing his already. So we'll definitely come back to that a little later in the show. But before we can get to Halloween, there's a lot going on, and that 2025 release calendar gets just a little bit more stacked. First up, Welcome to Derry, which is the It prequel. They released the miniest of little teasers the other day. I mean, it looked good,
Mhm.
but yeah, now we have It eyeing 2000, or if you Welcome to Derry, if you will, eyeing 2025, man. So 2025 keeps shaping up to be one hell of a year for horror.
Yeah, that it does. But yeah, they put out the sizzle reel on Max, and if you were able to pick it apart a little bit, you kind of got a couple of minor details for what Welcome to Derry is going to be. And it's pretty much, from what I took from it, it's going to be set in like the 60s, prequel series, like you mentioned. And it's going to follow like a group of, I think, like 4 kids, and kind of the origin story of how Pennywise got like his start in the town of Derry, and what brings that on to like the town and the curse. And I guess we'll kind of see like all the details and how it unfolds and led into like later years. So I'm looking forward to that. It should be, I think, pretty good.
The other one is Black Phone is getting a sequel, and it will also come out in 2025. And honestly, until a little earlier today, I thought the new Saw movie was also
Yeah.
going to track for. In fact, I'll go one step further. Is that's a little bit of a rush job, the release date they
Yeah,
announced. I would not be shocked to see Saw creep into that
yeah, maybe.
2005 calendar. Either way, in the course of like 14 months, you're going to have basically almost every major, horror franchise returning. some way, shape, or form. And there's been talks of Netflix doing more Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies.
Yeah.
So, and Netflix usually turns things around pretty quickly. And honestly,
Mhm.
they're in early development on Fear Street. I know you weren't a Fear Street guy, but like that's probably looking like a 2025 or 2026 release. So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know if I've seen, and I don't know if many people understand just how big that year is shaping up to be
Yeah.
for horror.
Yeah. It's going to be huge. And this is just what we know so far. We still don't know like what might get announced and creep into 2025 on top of all of this. The thing that has me most intrigued is Black Phone because for anybody that's seen it, the way it ends, and then the news coming out that it's going to be a sequel, I was kind of torn between like, how's it going to be a sequel? Or I thought they were going to go prequel and we were going to get like a Grabber origin story and see like how he even started like his whole reign of terror in the town. So to hear it's going to be a sequel was that was interesting news. So I guess we'll kind of wait on details and see how that ends up turning out.
Uh, there was another one too that I was just looking at recently, and I went, "Oh, you know what? That's probably 2025 as well." And
Yeah,
it just slipped my mind. If I end up coming back to it, or if it comes up, I'll come back to it. But
yeah,
honestly, I think there's so much. We probably need to do a 2024 preview show before we
yeah.
get to
Right.
2025. But 2025 is just lining up to be this incredible year for horror that it's probably worth doing an episode on, to be honest. Just going over all the different projects that are currently lining up for around then.
Yeah, I'd definitely be up for that. As we start to get like more official details on each thing, we can kind of cover each one that we get, more official, bloody discussing articles or whatever might come out, and get into that. And I'm sure we'll have a lot to cover because we've already mentioned how much is coming in 2025 already, and hopefully they can kind of we can backtrack and cover 2024 just as well, as long as there's a good amount of stuff coming out. So we'll see. Maybe they'll sneak Elm Street into like a guaranteed like lock for 2024.
Yeah, I would love to see whatever New Elm Street is in early development come out, for the 40-year anniversary. But at the same time,
Right.
them just doing the movie. I know people are probably sick of hearing this at this point, not just on this show,
Yeah.
but on this channel. But like, just take the time and do
Yeah.
it right. Whatever it is they got cooking. I'd much rather it release on the 41st or 42nd year anniversary and it be a better film than go back to square one yet again. Like, how long has it been? We're talking like 13 years since the last movie.
Yeah, 2010, the remake, and like we said, not a good one. So hopefully they can kind of like recover from that and make up for that and give something to the fans that we'll really appreciate. And seeing that, that'll be good. Like you said, if they sneak it into 2025, but it comes out early, they can still kind of label it like a 40th anniversary. And okay, it comes out a little bit later, maybe February, March of 2025. And I would still say it counts if they worked on it all next year and they get it ready for like early 2025 release. So they can make it work.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens, but there's definitely a lot scheduled. Speaking of a movie that might be eyeing a 2025 release date, if any release date at all at this point, is Scream 7. There's all sorts of rumors and videos and content being put out there right now surrounding the Scream franchise, and everybody jumping at the first thing they possibly can because we live in a day and age where it's more important to be first than right.
Yeah.
And like I seen someone put out there that it's canceled.
Oh
It's
God.
like they like, and not like rumored, like there it is, it's canceled, it's done. And then another person's like, Courtney Cox will not return, and she's taking a stand.
Yeah.
My 2 points there is They literally just announced the creative team is staying on board. So
Yeah.
the project is not canceled.
Right.
It might not be in a great place right now, but it is not canceled.
Yeah.
And
Not at
number
all.
two, if there's one cast member that's definitely going to come back for a paycheck,
Yeah.
it's Courtney Cox.
Yeah. Of course. I don't know why people gotta race to be first like so fast all the time. Especially like you said, we just had like confirmation that creative is staying on and they're going to move forward. And then what? A few days later, someone saying the whole thing is canceled. Like, check check your information. Like, check your shit first before you just run to the internet to throw it on there, just so you can kind of be first with your news. And you don't want to put that out there and that'd be wrong. But we live in a day and age where, like you said, it's a race to be first, and the information getting out there is ahead of like what's correct. So hopefully, people learn, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think ends up happening with the project?
Um, I think Courtney Cox is going to come back. People don't want to see Gail not return, so I think she's going to be on board to come back. I can't see her letting all this other shit kind of get in the way, because money. So I think she's probably going to get greenlit. And then I think we'll see, like we've been talking about, a new direction, some sort of reboot. I'm still 50-50 on the retcon if they'll go back and forget 5 and 6. So we'll see. That's about the best that I can even come up with at the moment, just because there's so much.
Honestly, if I were them, if they go that route, if you're gonna retcon anything, retcon 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
And do something right after 3.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So, especially if you want to bring in Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah.
Although I guess he's getting a lot of calls from that same studio at the moment. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens on that front. Dude, it's happened. We got a peek at the 7 set, if you will.
Yeah.
It's gonna take me a couple minutes to pull it up here, but
Hmm.
what were your thoughts? I know you've already gone ahead and purchased
Yeah.
yours, but what were your thoughts? Because they unveiled a couple of different options.
They
Uh,
did.
what did you think?
I was happy because, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I was hoping they did something like really collector friendly, and they definitely delivered. And I have to give thanks and a little shout out here to Freddie in the chat because he's the one that sent it my way. He caught it first, and I was not expecting that announcement so soon. It's at the very end of the year, so it's a December 30th release date. I haven't seen anything in the States yet, but the two that I saw that I sent you were UK exclusive. But luckily, they're from, I think Zavi has them. They're another outlet that I haven't talked about. They sell in the US and in the UK. I believe they're a UK based company, and they started getting some traction here in the US. So they opened up a US store. Um, it went on Amazon, and I'm sure there's probably a few other places that probably have it, but they were the first two that I saw. And yeah, there's your image right there. That bottom set is the one that sold me immediately. It's about $50 more than the set that's above it, and the main difference is you see in the middle right there is that they gave us the box. We're getting the box, so all of your stuff that's pictured there on the screen is going to come inside the box from the end of the movie, which I thought was an amazing touch. So I can't wait to get that in my collection. But my problem is now I have to find space for it. So I'm going to be revamping my shelf space a little bit to kind of fit that.
Be cool if they're like in the box. They just don't announce it, but you get like a replica, messed up version of what was the actress's name that plays Pitt's wife in the movie?
Oh,
She's
yeah.
Avengers and other stuff. So,
Yeah. Slipping my mind.
I know. Anybody have the name of the headless wonder at the end of the movie? 7, that is. The actress. It's killing me. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, she's a big name too. And it's.
I wonder if it's in the article. Probably not. Someone's gonna say it. I'm gonna be like, "Oh, Gwyneth Paltrow."
That's what I was going to say, and I wasn't positive, so I didn't want to throw that out and be wrong. But that's where I was leaning. I thought so. Yeah, that would be cool. Like a little replica, like bloody decapitated head. That'd be awesome.
It'd be It might be a little too far for some
Yeah,
people, and like I totally get it. But this is badass.
yeah,
Uh, Affordability wise, I don't know if I'll be able to get it, but I hope to. It looks badass. Um, yeah, like I've been talking to you probably for over a couple of years now, just about wanting Seven to get
yeah.
this nice 4K set, and I mean, considering what's on there, I can't wait to see what they do. And I noticed the design for what looks like it's a steel book
Hmm.
is not confirmed yet. So
Yeah, not yet.
I wonder what we'll get in terms of that.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's good. I hope. I mean, even if they went like original poster art and gave it like a nice gloss finish, and maybe just did some like raised text or some kind of like embossing or debossing on it, will give it like a nice like premium touch. So I'm sure they'll pull something out cool. We'll get that reveal hopefully soon. Either way, mine's pre-ordered and should be here in early January. So be on the lookout for my show and tell in January when that gets here, because I'll be diving all the way into that set.
Speaking of show and tell, man, I think that tees you up as we get ready to get to our lists here. What do you
Yeah.
have to show us this week for your show and tell?
Yeah. This week is a little light, but I thought it would tie into the announcement that we just got, which is Saw 11. So, but this is something I kind of wanted to highlight for being like a basic studio release. Was Saw X on 4K. Just this was rushed out a little bit. Because they moved up the release date and it bumped everything up. So we didn't get a steelbook for this, which I was a little bit bummed. I wanted to get the steelbook because I have the first Saw steelbook that they did from Lionsgate, which is awesome. It's got the clear cover. It's like a TV, and when you slide it off, it's got Billy the Puppet on the inside of the TV screen, which was awesome. So, but this right here for a basic release, they did a great job. There's no HDR on it, which is just like basically your color palette. It kind of boosts your colors for 4K. They didn't do that here, but they didn't really need to because this is new, modern day. It looked great already, so if it's not broke, don't fix it. But it's the content that they put on here. The special features. There's like a few deleted and extended scenes, and then they have like 7 featurettes that break down the entire process of the film, from like pre-production and into production and filming and all that stuff. They cover a little bit of the score and how they did that. So everything they covered was great. And there's 2 ways you can play them. You can play them all individually, or what I did was I hit the play all button, and it's like an hour and 40-minute like deep dive. It runs all the featurettes together, and it almost comes out like a full documentary. So I just thought that was just such a great thing to include on a simple release like this. This was like 25 or $30, which is on the lower end of like a 4K release. They're typically between like the $35 and $40 range. But this came with like a 4K disc and a Blu-ray that has everything on both discs. So they could have even released them separately and dropped the price a little more, but they kind of packed them together and put everything in here. But I mean, like I said, for something so simple, it's got the slipcover. These usually come on like the first pressings, like for the first few hundred copies that are out there. So when you buy it early, you get these nice covers. They did a pretty good job on this one. The text is raised. You get some embossing on the image here with the guy's face being stuck to the tubes, which was pretty nice. Decent little image on the back with some film shots and the characters and everything. And then the case is simple. It's the same artwork on the front and back. And then the only thing in here is a digital code and the Blu-ray and the 4K disc. But this was one of my favorite releases so far for this year, as far as it goes for like standards, just because of all the content they put on here. And that entire like I guess you could call it like the making of was just, I was blown away by how much they fit on here, with just it being like kind of, like I said, standard. I'm sitting here and I'm checking the time as it's running, and I see like an hour and 30 minutes left. I'm like, oh, wow, like they did a whole deep dive. So everything they covered was really, really cool if you want to see how the movie was made. And I think it's probably limited to like a physical release. I don't think you can pull those features up on digital or anything, but they've started doing that with more stuff that they're putting on streaming. So sometimes you get the features, but But yeah, this was a great pickup for the year. So if anybody's on the fence about it and you like the documentary stuff that we kind of dove into last week, this covers that, and I think this is well worth putting in your collection. And I figured covering this would be a good little segue right into that announcement of Saw 11 getting its release date. So that's show and tell. And I guess if you want to get into Saw 11 a little bit, we can do that.
Yeah, they're slated for I don't have the date right in front of me, but I believe it's a fall 2024 release.
Yeah.
So that seems like I get it. It's a Saw movie, so the amount of writing that goes into a Saw movie is, you can cut some corners with Saw that you can't necessarily cut with some other things. But man, we just got out of a strike.
Yeah.
And like I'm sitting here and I'm going, I want it to be good. I haven't seen 10, which to my understanding is technically either 1.5 or 2.5 or something like that.
Yeah, it fits right in between 1 and 2.
And I just sit here and I go, from what I understand, 10 was received pretty well compared to a slew of the recent sequels that were prior to that. And like, again, we're going back to the same well here, but like, do it right, please, for the love of God. Because when you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, you have to have different unique takes and spins, and you have to have a reason for people to pay what's not, an inexpensive amount of money to, go on date night to go see Saw or something. And, by the time you leave the movie theaters, food in, tickets in, depending on how you see the movie, the type of screen you're seeing it on and theatrical setup, like you're talking about $100 night. So like I don't know about you, man, but I'm really picky about what I'll go see now, especially living out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm not trying to shit on Saw. This feels very ambitious, and I am betting right now that it does not hit that release date.
Yeah. They might. Right now I think it's September 27th. So it's just under like a year off. When they were doing Saw 10, this is something they cover in that making of that's on my 4K disc. They started writing this movie, Saw 10, before they started writing Spiral. And then Chris Rock kind of chimed in somewhere in between them writing it and came to them with the idea for Spiral. And they greenlit that. So they put Saw 10 on like the back burner. But even in the production of Spiral, they continued to kind of like add bits and pieces, and they kept focus on 10. So originally Saw X was supposed to be Saw 9. They fit Spiral in there, and then they just bumped this up to be Saw 10. So they have their ideas in place, and I think they approach them pretty well. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they already mentioned in that documentary as well that they have a lot of ideas for where they want to take the story from 10 into 11. And they have a direction they want to go with it. So hearing all that for me was a lot of positives. This leads back to us not, really wanting rush jobs, and we don't want to see stuff just get pushed out for the sake of, banking on the previous success already. But I think it's in good hands. So I have like a positive look on 11 already. So hopefully that all comes together, and we don't want to see them rush the writing, but I think they're going to be pretty well into the writing process, and I think they have their ideas lined up to give us like a good follow up and another good product, because Saw 10 was received really, really well.
Yeah, it's not like Scream 7 where 75% of your film walked out the door. So
yeah,
they're two. I know people are going to compare the situations to some extent, but they really are not alike. Scream definitely faces a much bigger uphill battle than Saw does. I definitely hope the best for it. It's an ambitious release date, and I would really hate to, the first thing people start thinking when something gets delayed is, what was the issues? What's the problem? What went wrong? I like to try to avoid that discourse if possible, even though that type of discourse seems to get views and clicks and comments and stuff like that. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, I just want to see good entertainment, man.
Oh yeah, of course, we all do. Like I said, I have positive and like high hopes for 11. I think they have some good ideas that they're playing around with, and I think it'll lead into a good product.
I just want to take a moment and thank our patrons for everything that they do to allow us to come out here and do these shows for each and every one of you. Without them, we would not be here. You can check out our content on Patreon, patreon.com/fandom empire. There'll be some new stuff going out probably this week, so be on the lookout for that. And then once Christmas passes, I know Matt and I are going to sit down and we'll see if we can find free time to get Dean involved too. But I definitely want to go over more of those Taking Shape 2 stories and some of the different canceled sequels from the past, because like there's just so much rich material there, and I'm thrilled to see Dustin McNeil, one of the authors behind it, on social media just sharing little nuggets from it and pointing people in direction of the book. We've tried to quote them in the past. They've been super thoughtful with their time that they've spent on this channel in the past on 2 different occasions, so big shout out to them for that. And our channel sponsors, Backtrack Cinema, Storytime Spectacular, Colleague Nation. Without you guys, we would not be here. Definitely check out those YouTube channels when you can. And in terms of what we have the rest of the week, it's a week of lists because tomorrow night we're ranking all these Star Wars theatrical films. This was another list that gave me some fits, but that's tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. All 12 Star Wars theatrical films. We will rank them and see where they end up. And then Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, we're going to rank our top 5 wrestling video games. We'll talk in some X-Men, wrestling, and our favorite and not so favorite holiday movies. Be on the lookout for that. Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fandom Empire. Dean, we had the task of putting together our top 10 Halloween Michael Myers masks. Was this a relatively easy list for you to put together, or did you have some issues with certain things?
I thought it was going to be kind of tough, and then the approach I took was, let me just eliminate the ones I know I'm not including right off the bat, and then pick from everything that's left. And I think I mentioned to you earlier, I started with my top 5 because that was easier to start with. So I knocked out the top 5 pretty easy. And then it was like, okay, now I have the back half of the list to fill in. And I ended up starting at the bottom at 10 and then working my way back up to number 6. And then before I knew it, in like 20 minutes time, I'm like, oh, check that out. My list is done. So it ended up being easier than I thought. It was going to be or I thought it was going to be a little bit more difficult, but I ended up knocking it out pretty fast.
The middle section of the list, man, I really struggled with. And it's also because so Halloween 4, for example, I'm not going to tell you where it is on the list. We're going to start from 10 and work our way up. But like a lot of people shit on that mask, rightfully so, when you consider what's on the poster, just say, and the VHS cover and the DVD cover, or at least some of the older DVD covers. But I honestly think there are certain shots in that movie, and depending on who the mask's on, where the mask actually looks really good.
Yeah.
And the one sequence I can think of, and it's unfortunate that it's a fucking dream, but it's the dream sequence at the beginning of the movie. Lighting matters not just on the Halloween 4 mask, on all of these masks, depending on how it's lit and who's under it. It can make a world of difference. Like there's a good chunk of Halloween 4 where this mask just looks like complete dog shit.
Oh yeah.
And yet there are moments where it's like, oh, that actually looks badass.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the pink mask with the blonde hair either.
Right. Yeah, lighting is huge. I think a really good example of that was when I got the Trick or Treat Studios 1/6 scale, the 12-inch tall, original 78 Nick Castle Myers figure. I was excited when they announced that because it was like the first officially licensed one that was coming out. So I pre-ordered it, and the pictures did not look good, but I went ahead and grabbed it anyway. And then finally it ships. I get it in hand, and I'm taking it out of the box and I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, this thing, it looks like it could use some work. So I stick it in my display case, and I added lighting into the case I have. So I have everything set up in there, and I flip a switch and all these bright lights come on and they light everything up like really nicely. And when I tell you the difference, as soon as the light hit like the top half of the mask and shine down and it lights it up in the right spots, like I thought I was looking at a scene out of the movie. Like the change was so drastic, but for like the positive. So lighting is huge, 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 huge thing for like all these masks. Like you said, it's got to be worn kind of a certain specific way. It's got to be lit up and shot a certain way. And you can have the same mask from different angles and it looks completely different. But like you said, one time it'll look horrible. And then the next shot, you're like, is that the same thing? Like it looks totally different. So yeah, lighting is major, very, very major.
It can make or break, basically,
Yeah.
and not just on masks, on anything on a movie.
Oh yeah.
To sidetrack a little bit, we've been diving into some of our filming material from when we shot a good chunk of Haddonfield's Vanished, and I still think we had rented like this mini mansion out in the middle of nowhere. We shot there for 2.5 days. And I've recently gone back over everything that we had, and it's unfortunate because like day one, you can see everything went really good.
Mm-hmm.
And day two, not so much. And lighting was a massive issue. So lighting is just so integral to everything. Like think about Halloween from 1978.
Yeah.
And the lighting may as well be a character in the film.
Yeah.
People talk about it all the time. They talk about it more than a lot of people talk about it more than story points, kills. We gotta have that classic blue lighting. Gotta have that in there. And so like it is important. And so when doing my list, I definitely tried to think about like what did the mask look like at its best?
Yeah.
And where does it rank on my list?
Yeah, that's a good approach. That's definitely a good approach. I went a little different, but we'll get into it.
I'll kick things off. We'll start with my number 10. I just got to pull up my list here. Of course, my phone doesn't want to cooperate.
You want me to lead while you get that up?
My number 10 from the 2002 8th Halloween movie, Halloween Resurrection, is the mask worn by one Brad Loree. I am not a big fan of this mask, man. Like it at all in any sense of the way. If I could not have this mask on my top 10, I probably would have, but I didn't want to do multiple masks from a single film. So it's more or less process of elimination. There's two masks I really, really didn't like compared to this one. Yeah. So for me, my number 10 is Halloween Resurrection. And honestly, it's not that the mask looks terrible. The eyebrows throw me off a little bit. And there's just something about it that doesn't feel totally like Michael throughout the whole movie. For me.
Yeah, it's got kind of a strange look. The eye holes, they're not too big. They're definitely not H2O size, but yeah, the eyebrows throw it off a little bit. The face on it, it's kind of got a little bit of like a evil kind of villainous look to it, but it doesn't really sell me. So I can definitely see your number 10 being that. And for me, this didn't even make my list. So I kind of I avoided this one altogether.
All right. I feel less bad now. Symmetry says, I began my Myers mask collection in 85 when I bought the Dawn Post version offered that year. It was the only one of its type available during that time. Definitely more latex in nature than now.
Yeah.
Do you still have it, man? Or is
Yeah, I
that something
mean,
that's fallen by the wayside?
that would be up there in age now. I would hope that would hold up, because these things, they deteriorate over time if you don't kind of store them away and take care of them. So hopefully, because that could be a pretty valuable piece, honestly. Because the Don posts they're hard to find now, big time.
Alessandra says, speaking of Halloween, do you think they would ever bring back Tina to
Oh
do a
God.
series? It's been on my mind for a minute. Dean, you watching a Tina series?
I mean, if she had like a cameo or a small role, I might check it out. But I think no Tina for me. I'm Tina'd out from 5. But what was she stabbed in the shoulder? So like you could play with that and be like, oh, it wasn't a fatal injury. So
Oh God,
yeah,
no,
I
no,
know.
no.
There's yeah, as much as we don't want it, it's doable. I hate to say it, but yeah.
Man, she is one of my most hated characters in that franchise.
Yeah.
Hey, if you love her, then all the power to you. I think part of mine, like, is I have a hard time separating um Tina from Rachel getting just royally fucked in that
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to take the two and separate them. I probably should be able to do that, but I can't.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they gave us. So we're stuck with that. And we discussed that a while ago, but that was a really bad decision. Terrible handling of her character. And we got into that, but they should have kept Rachel around at least till the end of that movie, killed her off, respectably, and at least went that direction. So no for Tina and yes for Rachel. It's about the best I can say on it.
Oh man, more Rachel would be fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
I'd be totally for that.
Yep.
But whether that ever happens or not, I don't know if I'm that lucky.
Yeah.
What did you have at 10, dude?
All right. So for number 10, I started with Halloween 2, 2009. So Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And it's his aged mask, but it's before that shot right there. It's before half the face gets ripped off. There's something about that mask with the aging on it and the dirt that collected. And, he's a drifter. So he's just kind of tossing that thing into a bag and handling it with his just dirty, grimy hands that just really put a lot of weathering on that. And just the look that it gets. I think the standout shot of that mask for me is in the middle of the field when the guys drive the truck out and they hop out to beat him when he's cutting through the field, and they knock him down, and then they kind of walk away, and he stands up and he pulls that thing over his face, and it's like the first time we see it, like in that dark field, and you kind of got the lighting from the lights of the truck. It's just, there's something about it that really kind of like, it looks menacing. So that was my number 10.
It's not on my list. That
Fair.
one for me is it's tough, right? Because like the poster shot, essentially just them taking the shot of him in the hospital,
Right.
and what's her face in the head, is amazing.
Yeah.
Love it. But I don't know. It's something about where they go with the mask in the movie that's just like not for me.
Nah, that's a no. That's the mistake I think they made right there, was ripping half the face off and exposing, that upper quarter.
God.
Yeah, so bad. So bad.
So bad I'm choking. Why don't you start with number 9?
All right. 9, I went Halloween 6. It's grown on me over the years. Like, that's not the best shot of it, but like we talked about with lighting and some of the darker shots and the way that mask looks in certain scenes, it just, year after year of me rewatching it kind of caught on. So it's low on my list, but it made it. And there's only so many we can pick from. So this ended up making it over. I think I left out H2O and I left out Resurrection. So yeah.
Speak of the devil, H2O is next on my list at number 9. I don't mind, like, structurally, you could convince me that this is a very similar mask to the original.
Yeah, it's close.
But the eye holes
It's,
kill me on this thing, man. It makes me not like the mask, and yeah, I think it is part of the problem with some of Michael's masks. Or some of them just aren't very good.
yeah. With this one, I think they could make some slight adjustments. One, you cut those eye holes smaller, and then when the actor's wearing it, you have to tilt it forward on his face more, and you have to get his eyes up behind the holes and closer to the top of it, where it kind of darkens them and it hides his eyes. And I think that would probably make that look a world of better.
We've talked about on this channel at length, a bunch of us, anyways, that um, Michael's masks look the best when you cannot see his eyes, in my opinion.
Always.
And there are ways that they could have gone about hiding his eyes, just like simple technical things. We did it when we were shooting. It made visibility a little bit hard for the actor, but all in all, there's things you can do to definitely take away that look. Because, like, to me, when the eyes are as clear as they are in H2O, it takes away all the intimidation.
Yeah, I would agree. We really shouldn't see his eyes, especially in this capacity. And there's some shots where it's really brightly lit, and you see his eyes clear as day, like you said. And then technically, H2O is supposed to be a follow up to Halloween 2, and he's shot in the eyes at the end of that movie, and there is no damage done whatsoever to what we see here. So a little bit of a continuity error.
He's got a great eye doctor, apparently.
Yeah.
Let's continue on here. Number 8 for me. I actually thought I had this higher up my list, but I guess not. Is Halloween 4.
Wow.
And this is one of those shots where I go, I dig that mask. I like it. I find that mask intimidating, especially in the dark when the lightning hits and like it makes a flash in the mirror. Like, I think this looks good. The problem is 90% of the movie, the mask does not look like this.
No. Yeah, it's almost totally different. I think it looks like the worst in the Bucky scene when he's standing in there and you get that really bright light shined on him. Yeah, he's just standing there and it's just like a flat face, and it's just it looks awful. And then you have this in the beginning and you're like, why didn't you just continue to go this route the whole rest of the movie? It would have worked so much better. I think this would be received a lot better if you have this instead of, you know, the rest of what we got. So this is a good example right here of like the way lighting works and hiding the eyes. And I mean, you just look at that right there. Like that's a pretty good representation. It almost kind of lines up with the original. It's a little bit more round in the face, but that could be just the way it's worn by the actor there.
Yeah, it looks badass. I don't know if anybody in the chat has this knowledge, and I'd have to dig into the Taking Shape books again, but I don't believe is George Wilbur in the flashback scenes.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I forget what the other guy's name is, but I believe it's someone else in the flashback scenes. And to me, that would make some sense because you look at the way the mask fits, a good chunk of the rest of the movie compared to how it fits here. This mask creeped the shit out of me.
Yeah,
it did, and one of the reasons is you never ever come close to getting a glimpse of his eyes through it.
Yeah,
it's as if his eyes are not there.
Right, and that's how it should be. That's, I believe,
Halloween too, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I would agree. Gotta hide the eyes. That's a major factor. My phone keeps flopping. We're on 8, right? I have Halloween Ends at number 8 for me. I liked the evolution of the mask from 2018 to Kills and into Ends. And the only thing that takes away from this for me is I kind of thought from like a technical standpoint, and this is, he goes into hiding and he's in the sewers and he's in that like musty and just moisture ridden like sewer. So that's going to really deteriorate and age this thing. to where it's not going to really hold up like this. Like it's going to start to kind of like crack and peel and rip apart. So it would have been interesting to see if they had kind of done that a little bit, like certain spots, maybe around the eyes, at the neck a little bit, maybe like the splits at the mouth. If they just did a little bit of detail with that, where it was starting to kind of crack apart and rip, I think it might have added a little bit. But the positive with this for me is the mold, when they had the mold growing on it, like that. Anybody that knows, like wet anything, like damp areas, all that, mold growth is a big thing. So I thought that was a cool touch when they had like all of the white mold growing on it. You don't get that effect with the Trick or Treat Studios ones. They try to do it. Some look a little better than others, but if you've ever seen Chris Nelson's, like he posted a shot on his Instagram of the screen use one that he did for the film, and that thing is just covered in mold all up and down the left side that was all burnt and into the hair. So I think they took a really cool approach with adding that mold effect to show like the aging and the environment that he was hiding in.
Admit it, this mask fell on your list simply because of the movie it's in.
And yeah, that definitely that had some, but I mean, it landed at 8. It wasn't at the bottom, so it kind of bonus points where it ended up at.
I am curious where the rest of your list goes because I'm already a little lost. I didn't think that this mask would be this low.
Yeah.
7 for me is the Rob Zombie Halloween 1 mask.
Okay.
I think for me, I had a love-hate relationship with this mask because as it was first unveiled and we started to see screenshots and we got in the trailer, I really fucking loved it.
Yeah.
And then you see the movie, and much like Halloween 4, I just think the mask looks not very good at times. I think it shows way too much of Tyler Maine's eyes at times.
Yeah.
There are certain shots where you can't really see his eyes, and then there are a lot of shots where you can. And I don't know. I think the key to doing Michael Wright is hiding the eyes as much as possible.
Yeah, always. And then I'll just piggyback right off of that because this landed at the same spot. It's this mask at number 7 for me. But I went the approach of not so much in the beginning where it's new and it's clean, and then the boyfriend pulls it out, and then he gets killed, and then you have young Michael put it on, and it's oversized and it just looks ridiculous on like a 10-year-old kid. But later in the movie, he buries it in the floorboards. And he goes back to his house and he's ripping the floor apart to get it out. And when he first pulls it out, you see like the aging, the deterioration, and the dirt. And then he puts it on. And where I don't like seeing the eyes, I think the rest of it translated really well. So I think they took a good approach with it. And then, like you had already said, some scenes they hide his eyes really well. And I think that's where it's like its strong point is at. Like it looks the best when his eyes are completely blacked out, or you can very barely see like the gloss of his eyes, and it works out really well. So yeah, this landed at number 7 for me.
Freddie says that Tom Moria played Myers in Halloween 4, who also played Dream Jason in Friday the 13th Part 5. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if it is Tom in this shot right here in the whole dream sequence. I'm pretty sure Taking Shape gets into that. I can't remember if it's the first book or the second book. It makes sense if it's the first book. But yeah, it makes sense. Like you put a different look at if you believe the stories, look at Nick Castle and Dick Warlock.
Oh yeah.
Like it almost looks like a different mask.
You can see it. If I get out of my way here, I have my 1 and 2 right behind me, and if you're looking at those, I mean side by side, it's a little hard to see, but you can tell the first one it's longer from the chin to the forehead, and then Warlock's face was a lot wider, so when it fit him, it rounded it out. But they look very similar, but the face shape is a big difference.
Yeah, it's definitely crucial for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What are we at now? 6?
Yeah,
because we both had the same one. Well, I guess we're going right back to that mask because number 6 for me is Halloween 2. I know people are over the moon about this mask. I know Dean has a beautiful version of that right behind him. I don't know. I just don't like how tight fitting this mask was on Warlock compared to how it looked on Nick Castle.
Yeah, and that just goes to, like we said, Nick Castle's face way back in the day. He had a very long face from his forehead down to his chin. So the story behind that is his face was too big for it. So when he put it on, he had to stretch it, pull it down to try to get it to fit. And his chin would not fit into the space in the mask for it. So it kind of pushed it down. And that's why you get the castle stretch where it elongates it and it becomes narrow in the face. And it makes the eyes look a little wonky. And you get that funny like look in the lower half too, like where his chin is at. And then you have Warlock right here, much wider. It's the other way. It stretches out ear to ear, and it pulls the eyes almost football shaped. So the eyes get a little bit smaller, but this gets a lot more rounded out and wider. But the way the dirt collected on this is like one of my favorites. I love how dirty and grimy it got.
Dustin says N's mask looks like it's the nastiest smelling thing in the world. Clearly, you never met my old neighbor. But anyway, let's. Sorry, I guess it's year 6 now.
Yeah, and we are revisiting Halloween 4, and we are going right back to the bedroom dream sequence. Yeah, that right there, we kind of already covered it, but everything we mentioned earlier, it just applies here, and it lands at number 6 on my list for me.
I'm pretty surprised you had this in front of the zombie mask and the H6 mask. I didn't expect that. And speaking of H6, that's where my top 5 begins. It's not the best shot of it. I was having a hard time finding high quality photos on.
Yeah, they're tough
for that movie. But H6, I own a version of it. It's to me, post Halloween 1 and 2. It's the closest that they come to having that mask right up until David Gordon Green's trilogy.
Okay. Nice. That's not bad. That's pretty good. I kind of covered 6 a little bit earlier because it's down at number 9 for me. So I will lead into my my top 5, and we get Halloween Kills. I love the effect, the burning. They didn't overdo it. Some of the hair gets a little singed and matted down up in the front there. But I think they took a great direction when they decided he was going to get trapped in the fire and how to design this mask right here. On the front of the magazine right there, you can see the eyes are totally blacked out. And it's like that for pretty much the entire movie as well. So you just get all of this just damage and the burning. And like I said, they didn't overdo it, but I think they did it just enough to where, like, he was in a fire, and it's, you would think that the latex would have probably melted and probably got stuck to the side of his face, which might have been a cool approach to have that thing fused to his face. And now it's kind of stuck and that becomes his face. So that would kind of be a cool idea. But,
how off the rails they went with that whole final chapter movie. Why wouldn't they have gone that way with the mask design?
Yeah, it would have been smart. It would have been a cool little bit of a difference. Like, we've never seen the mask actually get stuck to his face and become like a part of him. Like, it's already a big part of him as a character as it is. So to kind of build that into the rest of it, and now that's his actual face, would be I think would be a pretty cool approach. But yeah, I love the direction they went with this.
I'm not going to comment on this one. I'm going to leave it until I come back to it. My number 4 is Halloween Ends. I truthfully think the one thing that David Gordon, it's not like there was only one thing, but the one thing more than anything else that David Gordon Green got right was the look of Michael Myers. This is probably, well, not probably, it is my least favorite look of that trilogy. But it's still, when you consider all the other movies, one of the closest we get to the original mask.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely. I love the direction they went, like keeping it, okay, it's a sequel to 78 and we're going to really try to stay true to that look. So it was a great approach when we finally saw like the poster come out. We got the glimpse of what the mask was going to look like, and then the trailer comes out and we finally got to see his whole look. They nailed it. They nailed it big time. So big brownie points for choosing this design, and then keeping it like continuity wise, like um, in in sequence, like all three movies. Like it you see the evolution of the coveralls. They get more damage. You know, he gets shot, beat, you know, stabbed, everything, and they continue to look from 2018 all the way to ends, which was great because, you know, from the rest of the franchise, his look changes so frequently throughout the rest of it. So great decision to keep it all continuous.
What do you have it for?
Where am I at here? Here we go. I'm breaking a rule. I'm going back to Halloween Kills, but I'm going the flashback mask. It was great to see them pretty much come as close as you can to the original 78 without running into like copyright issues or like licensing or anything, and likeness issues with William Shatner, because that's something they definitely have to keep in mind. But I like what they did with the flashback mask, because if you see that mask and then you sit it next to a 2018, the shape looks very, very similar. So you really got to see basically the evolution of the original and then the 40-year aging. I think it worked out really well. And like I said, it captured that look of 78 about as close as you could to the original without really kind of crossing any boundaries that would get them into like legal trouble or any kind of issues like that. So that's my number 4. Yeah, there it is. And right there is a great shot. It looked awesome in that alleyway.
I think the alleyway is definitely the best it looks in the movie.
Yeah.
For sure. I think there's some not great lighting moments while they're in the Myers house.
Oh yeah, when he's strangling the cop and that flashlight hits him right in the face, yeah, terrible. But that alleyway was definitely like you said, the best it looked in that whole scene.
Number 3 for me is Halloween 2018. I remember when they dropped the poster for that.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we couldn't see the whole mask, that was the first thing that really lit the Halloween fan base on fire for this movie, in my opinion. You were getting a mask that was far and away the closest it's been to the first 2 movies. Something that people have clamored for and long wanted. And we got it. And even though the poster only shows a portion of it, I still remember the feedback. You can go online, like search it up. People reacting to the Halloween 2018 mask. And just like the fandom being over the moon simply from the direction of the mask, which was just a wild time. You know, it was full of positivity. The mask is great in this movie. I struggled with my top 3. Like I really did on this list. Maybe not as much as 4 through 7 or 8 or whatever it was. But I definitely struggled with the top 3. I knew what my number 1 was, but 2 and 3, I think I went back and forth probably 4 or 5 times within the last couple of days. So, yeah, this was a great mask. And you know what? It sits on James Jude Courtney very well as well.
Yeah. And we can stay right here because this is also my number 3. Like you said, that poster came out and it set the whole fandom on fire. It's just, like you said, closest to the original that we've seen. And they took a really, really good approach with the aging, because latex doesn't age like that. It kind of droops and it looks funny after, you know, X amount of time and how it's stored. So giving us like this look of like it's wrinkled, it's you know, it's deteriorating a little bit, but it kind of kept its shape, no pun intended. But you know, it kept the look, it kept the shape. James Jude Courtney wears it extremely well. And I've sat that mask in my collection next to my 1 and 2. And between the 2 different looks that you get from 78 to Halloween 2, when you put 2018 next to it, it kind of falls in between. It looks kind of like both, you know, considering the 1 and 2 is the same mask. It just looks different from being worn by 2 different actors. The 2018 kind of falls right in between. It has more of a rounded look while still looking like the original 78. So um, major points on the design that they went with this mask, and I think you covered it well with everything you just mentioned about it. So it also lands at number 3 for me.
So we'll do something a little different here, and we will, since there's two left for each of us, we will do our number ones first, so that we're not spoiling what the number one is by doing our number two first. My number one favorite Halloween mask, Michael Myers mask, which is probably going to get hate from some people, is in fact the Halloween Kills mask. There's a little bias, for me anyways, having covered it. And I think we were, I know we were one of few that revealed what it looked like before a lot of official stuff was out there. It's a badass mask. The silver or the faded gray touch it has to it with the burning on the left hand side of the mask. I didn't think you could top the original.
Yeah.
And for me, they do it in this movie. Maybe it's not used the best in the right lighting during certain points of the movie, but man, this mask is, for me, it's money. It's the pinnacle of Michael Myers masks.
Yeah. That's a great choice. I mean, it landed a little low for me, but I'm a little biased with my first couple picks, so we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, I touched on this a little earlier, but yeah, this is a fantastic mask that they went with, and all the design elements, like you said, the faded paint, and like I mentioned, they didn't overdo the burning, but you know that this thing was like in a fire. So phenomenal mask, and it's a great choice for number one. For my number one, it's been sitting behind me the whole show, and I'm biased, but the original, the 78, terrified me as a child. Like, just look at that. That lived in my nightmares for years, and now I own one, and it sits proudly in a display case a few feet from my bed every night. So I love this thing, the simplicity behind it. They went to a store, they bought what they could get, and they just simple modifications, and this is the end product that you get. And like we mentioned with lighting and the way it looks and certain shots and shadows, this thing is terrifying. So it's been talked about to death, but this I think is one of the most iconic and classic pieces in horror history that we're ever going to get. So this sits proudly at my number one spot.
It's number two for me. I never thought I would have it at 2, and then Halloween Kills happened.
Yeah,
and I do think people need to be. I think there's too much of people. It's the original, so it's the best. It's the original, so it's the best. And I'm not saying that you having it at number one doesn't mean it's the best, because I think the overwhelming majority of people probably have this mask at number one, and maybe because it's the original, or maybe it's simply because of the way it sat on Nick Castle in that movie and the eeriness that you get just watching him move around and stalk in the shadows.
right.
I don't know. Kills did something to snag that top spot for me. But it's a hell of a mask, and like if you go back and look at every iconic slasher's first mask that they get, whether it's Baghead Jason or Michael here, or early days Leatherface, I don't think anything compares to the way Michael Myers looks in 1978.
Yeah, I don't think there's, like you said, there's no comparison. This is, for a very long time, terrified me in nightmares, but became my favorite movie of all time, favorite horror movie, favorite franchise. And just looking back at it now, thinking me as a kid and was scared shitless of this, and then to just the love that grew over the years for everything about it. It's pretty surprising to me, but very happy about it. Couldn't really think of anything else that would replace it.
What do you got at 2?
We kind of covered it a little bit earlier, but for me, it's Halloween 2, and it's the continuity. They brought that mask back, and I like how it ended up fitting Dick Warlock. It gave it just a strange, different look, and then the aging, the dirt, the paint turned yellow, and just all the dirt that collects on it. It just makes it look really just grimy and nasty. And then you get certain shots in the hospital where he's standing behind the nurse as she's backing up, and then they repeat the same shot from the closet scene behind Lori in the original, where that light just barely fades up and his mask comes into the shot, and he drives that syringe right into that girl's head, and it's just the way that looks is just phenomenal. So for me, this lands at number two for all those reasons. And like I said, with the continuity, I love the fact that they were able to bring this back and keep it in the second film.
Yeah, and there's still people. I seen some of the discourse in our chat a little earlier.
Mm.
There's still people that are unaware that it's the same mask from the first
Yeah.
movie, which is kind of wild when you think about it. I mean,
Mhm.
these are movies that are filmed, 45 and I guess 42 years ago.
Yeah.
And yet you still have people that they don't know, and it's not,
Right.
not like oh my god, they don't know, ha ha ha. They
Yeah.
look like two entirely different things.
Yeah. And that's what we talked about earlier, like some lighting and how it fits a different actor. It can change the whole look. And that's just, I love the versatility with that. There's so much you can do with it. So, yeah, it's kind of funny to me that people still, after all this time, don't know. But I think it kind of speaks for itself.
Well, I think we did it, man. We did the thing. We came on here.
Yeah.
We talked horror news, and you got to show and tell a little bit more. Take a look at Saw 10, and then we knocked out our top 10 Halloween masks. And unsurprisingly, this mask did not make an appearance on tonight's show. For my money, it's the worst Michael Myers mask that there is.
Yeah, that's a rough one. I mean, what do you say about this? It's mostly referred to as the alien mask. Freddie talked about it. He said it's the Nicolas Cage mask, and I when I first heard that, I lost it. I loved hearing that comparison to, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. So it's just that I don't even know, like, who thought of this. Why was this included? Why did you not just reuse the mask from 4? The movie takes place right afterwards, and then a year later. Why would you not just reuse the same thing?
I mean, yeah, like, you can convince me that H2 is the same mask as H1, and it actually is the same mask.
Right.
You cannot convince me that the Halloween 5 mask is the same as the Halloween 4 mask. Like, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying what they're selling in regards to that. But anyways, I suppose that is going to do it for our little show tonight. Thank you to everybody for coming out and being patient. Look, when you have kids or dogs or both, sometimes running right on time isn't always possible. So thanks for being patient. Thanks for coming out. Remember, the number one way that you can help us out is totally free. You can support the channel by simply clicking the like button, leaving a comment, slashing that notification bell to keep up to date with all the other content that we got coming on the channel, and subscribing. That helps too. We'll probably clip out this top 10 list and post it by itself over on the Legacy of Halloween, so check that out when it comes out. We posted a conversation we had on Welcome to the Geek Side over on the Legacy of Halloween, and definitely check that out. It's about the Halloween TV series and just different theories that we're going over pertaining to how it would work with Michael and how it would work with Season of the Witch. So be on the lookout for all that stuff. Dean, what do you got going on, man?
I'm back to a normal work weekend, thank God, because this one handed it to me. So thank God I can get back on a normal schedule again. But then we have New Year's Eve coming up, and that's going to be quite the night. So I have to mentally prepare myself for that. So yeah, I'll be trying to catch rest in between leading up to that. And then if you guys want to look for me, you can find me here weekly with Sean on Tonight in Haddonfield. Look for me in the Legacy of Halloween Facebook group. And You can search me in there, or you can search me just on Facebook alone at Dean Renner, and you guys can reach out to me, send me messages, comments, concerns, anything you guys want to bring up. I'm pretty open and available. So if you guys want to hit my inbox, feel free, and I will respond accordingly. So thank you to everybody that comes out every week. The show's kind of growing, and I'm happy to see it do that. So thank you to everyone, and find me and Sean here every week on Monday nights.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we'll be doing next week yet. We'll take some time and we'll talk about it, and hopefully, like this week, we'll have a link ready for you guys and gals out there by Friday, and we'll be back Monday. My schedule is not going to go back to normal till like January the 8th. So, I know everybody has a crazy Christmas schedule, but I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also looking forward to January the 8th and just getting back to some normalcy. So we'll be around. Again, if you're a Star Wars fan and you like lists, tune in tomorrow night as we rank the Star Wars theatrical films right here on the channel, 9 p.m. Eastern. And then we talk our top 5 wrestling games alongside with talking some CM Punk, WWE stuff, AEW stuff, X-Men, and our favorite and not so favorite Christmas movies. All that and more. Wednesday night, welcome to the Geek Side, 10 p.m. Eastern time. And again, next Monday, back here, either at 9 or 10 o'clock Eastern. We'll have more Halloween talk and more horror for each and every one of you. Until next time, don't forget, the Boogeyman is in fact coming.